It's been a while. It's been a while. Desmond and I have both admitted that. But guess what, folks? That's right, folks. It's March Madness season. It's March. It's March. It's the end of March. It's exciting. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the fifth quarter. We're podcasting 438 miles between each other. That's two cities, two rival cities, and two rival universities, Lubbock and College Station, Texas Tech and Texas A&M, respectively. And welcome to the fifth quarter podcast. Alongside myself, I am George Koff, and with me is Desmond McLaughlin, as always, for episode number 16 of the podcast. And we welcome in Desmond McLaughlin. Desmond, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, George. How are you, man?
Doing fantastic. It's We've have come back from spring break, so we're ready to hit the books again. And of course, unfortunately, this week, despite it being the first week back, it also means time to look at the bracket and focus on the bracket rather than schoolwork, right, Desmond?
Of course, George. Always school comes first.
I don't want to admit that to my parents. So, mom and dad, you're listening. Just know that I'll be doing both this week. So March Madness, as the name goes, we always get some sort of upsets, exciting results, and let's just discuss. We'll just go ahead and get right into it, Desmond. If you think so, should we just get right into it?
Let's go straight into it. Let's do it.
All right, we're gonna have a longer episode today since we got to make up for the lost time that we had from January 25th to today, Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. So here we go. We'll talk about the one seeds that were on Selection Sunday. Duke, Virginia, North Carolina, and Gonzaga in that order. Duke being your overall number one seed, and going to the East region. Virginia going to the South region as the second highest number one seed. UNC and the Tar Heels taking their one seed in the Midwest region, and Gonzaga and the Bulldogs go to the West region, which, as the final one seed, does make sense, though, for them to be in the West seed. This is only the second time ever in March Madness history, or at least since 1985. I'd like to make that pretty clear. Most of the stats I have, and Desmond probably as well, it's what you can find in up to the NCAA. It's since 1985. There are all these statistics that we're going to probably use throughout the podcast episode today. So since 1985, this is only the second time ever that a conference has had 3 of the 4 number one seeds. The other instance that occurred was the Big East did it in 2009. So this is actually the 10-year anniversary of it happening. And those 3 teams were Louisville, UConn, and Pitt. The fourth was UNC, which is funny because those 3 teams are now in the ACC. So, are not. UConn is still not in the ACC. They're in the American. I almost screwed up there. And of those 3, UConn was the only one that went to the Final Four. So, Desmond, this leads me to my first question. If we know that the last time this happened, only one of the 3 of the one seeds that were from the same conference went to the Final Four, do you think that would happen again?
Based off the teams that I see right now, I think at least 2 of them will be making it to the Final Four.
And personally,
and you also have to remember that UConn team had at least Kemba Walker on that team, just an outstanding athlete.
That's true. Yes, 2009 Big East was like Syracuse and Villanova was in the Big East. I think at that point St. John's. You had Marquette still in there. You had that was a stacked Big East, and so yes, that's a very good point that UConn was stacked, and I do not believe they won the national championship that year. That was when UNC did end up winning in 2009.
Right.
As we break down the bracket a little bit more, in that same region as Duke, Duke has Michigan State, LSU, Virginia Tech, and VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, or VCU as we call them, are in that same region. In the West region, Gonzaga, Florida State, Michigan, Texas Tech are the top 4 seeds, and it's 1, 4, 2, and 3 respectively. In the South region, we have Virginia, Tennessee, Villanova, in Kansas State and Cincinnati. The 3 seed in that region is Purdue. That's one team I did not mention there. And finally, in the Midwest region, we have a huge blue blood region with UNC, Kentucky, Kansas, and then we'll throw Auburn and Houston in the conversation. So, Desmond, if you had to choose, if you had from these teams, the top 4 in each region, what do you think? Who has the biggest chance to get upset?
All right, I just want to let you know I might be roasting a lot of teams today, but I respect all athletes, college players, and coaches who have made it to this the Cinderella dance. Congratulations to them. But in my opinion, the Midwest is the weakest division of them all this year.
I agree.
Yes, it's not a fact. I mean, it's just you have the Midwest. You have UNC as number 1, pretty solid team. Kentucky, a good team, but not as good as it's been in the past. And then you have Houston and Kansas as 3 and 4. Now, I think if you're looking at if you're in UNC, you're feeling good about this. In my opinion, I'm from Houston. Houston, Texas race, but I think Houston's a bit overrated. George, do you agree with me?
I do a little bit, especially Mike. I have a concern with when I watched the American Championship game on Selection Sunday, right before the selection show. I was a bit scared because Houston, they had come in dominant most of the year. And in their last 2 games in that conference championship, they squeaked by Memphis and they got beat pretty bad by Cincinnati. So there's definitely flaws if you can find in Houston that to shut them down, and that would be to shut down Corey Davis, because the rest of the team revolves around Corey Davis, and he's not going to have a good game, then the rest of the team's probably going to not do great. So I think if you're in that part of the bracket, the bottom part of the Midwest, Houston is probably going to make it to the Sweet 16 because there's in their sub bracket of the 3 other teams, Iowa State, Ohio State, and Georgia State, who they play first. There's nobody that's going to contest with them. But when they go to play whoever wins that bottom, Kentucky, Wofford, or Seton Hall, they are going to get beat, I think, unless they can pull some sort of upset and Kentucky doesn't make it to the Sweet 16 and you get Wofford or Seton Hall or something like that. So I think it just depends on who Houston plays, but there are flaws there are ways to beat Houston. Houston is one of those teams you could classify as beatable.
I'm just saying, UNC, I think, has the greatest chance out of all the number 1 seeds. Kansas, I think that they're hit or miss. Yeah. I watched them play against us, Tech. We destroyed them. They're not the team they used to be back in the day. They're not as dominant as they were. And then the 5th seed is Auburn. Auburn's about as good as Kansas. I just think UNC has the greatest chance. Not saying like that they will. I'm saying they have the greatest chance of all number 1 seeds to make it to the Final Four.
Definitely agree with that, and I think it just has to deal with because that's the weakest, as you mentioned, the weakest bracket, a part of the bracket, and I mean, you look at these teams. I mean, Utah State, Washington. Okay, it means something when your regular season champion in the Pac-12 is a 9 seed. That's how weak the Pac-12 is this year. Auburn, New Mexico State. We'll talk about that matchup in a second.
Wait, George. All right, hold on real quick. In your opinion, what do you think the strongest division is in the bracket?
For me, I would have to take the East because I like Duke and Michigan State to take it all the way to the Elite 8. I'd say either the East or the South, though, if we are talking strongest, because Virginia, Tennessee, Purdue, Villanova, Kansas State, Cincinnati, even you have a lot of teams here that traditionally have been really good. Now
I said the South too.
This year they've kind of been up and down, so it's going to come and depend on who shows up. But the thing I have with the East is you're always going to get a good Duke team, even if it's without Zion Williamson. You're still going to get a team that can beat, I'd say, probably 50% of the teams in the bracket this year, with Virginia Tech and Michigan State and LSU. Michigan State's dominant. So is Virginia Tech. We've seen the ACC dominate. We've seen the Big Ten be really good. I just am curious to see how that bracket plays out. because
too.
there are many possibilities for an upset. Maryland's got to watch out because the winner of tonight's first 4 game, which by the way, as we are speaking here, it is 6:40 local time, Central Time, and as we are speaking, Prairie View A&M and Fairleigh Dickinson are playing each other, and that the winner of that game gets Gonzaga. But the late game today, Belmont and Temple, is going to be who Maryland plays, and I think that could be something that Maryland's got to watch out for. Same thing with LSU and Yale. Yale's got a very good offensive team. They can put buckets on the board. They are consistently dominant off the glass. They can rebound. LSU has struggled recently with the whole Will Wade situation. They have struggled.
Mm.
That middle part of the bracket, we'll see who comes out of it. The outsides with Duke, Michigan State, and Louisville even. I'm not so concerned about that. I think those are potential locks, if you would, leading into our next section.
Oh yeah.
But
Before we get to the next section,
I'm going to stop there for a second. Go ahead, Desmond.
Oh, okay. I just want to say that football season was great. You know, you love football, I love football.
Right.
But I had to listen to you. You're a huge Aggie, correct, George?
Correct.
Biggest one out there. I had to listen to you brag about this Aggie football team while my team was losing. So I think you have to sit here and just let me name off the facts about the Texas Tech basketball team. Big 12 champions, coach of the year, Big 12 coach of the year, Big 12 player of the year, who will also probably be top 10 draft pick next year, Jarrett Culver himself. I'm sorry, George. I just had to throw that real quick.
Desmond, I gotta tell you something though. Did you win the Big 12 conference championship?
All right, George.
Conference tournament? No, I don't think so. Did you lose to the worst team in the league this year? Yes, I think so.
We were resting for the March Madness. We have better things.
Oh, please.
All right, let's get to the next section.
On that note, speaking of Texas Tech, Desmond, realistically, what do you think their chances are, and where do you expect them to at least get to? Maybe you're looking ahead and to the Elite Eight, Final Four, but where do you think they'll most likely at least get to? The first, like the that would exceed expectations, or not exceed, that would meet expectations rather.
All right, realistically, I would probably see them going to the Elite Eight.
Okay.
And losing to probably Michigan, which I believe is what happened. Is that what happened last year? Didn't they lose?
No. Texas Tech lost to. They did not lose to Michigan last year. Michigan was able to beat Florida State last year because Michigan beat A&M in the Sweet 16. And
it was A&M. I was okay.
I will double check while you go ahead and keep describing why. I'll double check Texas Tech.
Well, looking at who they have to play. By the way, I might consider going to the second game because it's in Oklahoma, which is not that far from Lubbock.
Okay.
They start off against Northern Kentucky, not a very strong team. Then they have to most likely play Buffalo, which the record looks nice, but they're not in a very good conference. I mean, and they're 1-1 against top 25 teams, so I think we can definitely handle that. And then that's when they're in the actually I was not late 16, my fault. That's when they have to play most likely Michigan or Florida, and that'll be a very tough game because Michigan is a very strong team. I think that they're underrated, but that'll be definitely a tough game.
I agree with you, and we checked that our small little research. I guess our research department here between the two of us is very small, but the Texas Tech Red Raiders they defeated Stephen F. Austin in the first round, Florida in the round of 32, Purdue in the Sweet 16, and lost to Villanova in the Elite Eight.
Okay.
In which Villanova the eventual national champions.
Yeah. I don't blame them for that.
So you do think they would get back to the Elite Eight this year? Is what you?
No. I Sweet 16.
Okay, Sweet 16. Okay. On that note, Houston. We just talked about how they've kind of been wishy-washy. They've been up and down. Where do you look at them at their chances? And where do you think they should go?
I see Houston losing in the second round to Iowa State. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know how hard I was for Oklahoma. I don't know what it is about other Big 12 teams, but probably because I get to personally see them up front, being I get to go to the games. But I'm riding Iowa State. I think that they're a way better team than their rank shows. Let me explain why. They won the Big 12 championship against Big 12 is not a very bad conference.
No,
Uh,
agreed.
they've been playing dominant. They did lose at least 3 of the 5 of the last regular season games, but they came back for the Big 12 championship, obviously going undefeated during that. They beaten Texas Tech. They beat Kansas State twice. They beat Kansas twice. They beat Baylor. They beat Oklahoma twice. They beat Ole Miss. These are all top 10 teams, and
without a doubt, yeah,
ranked in the like their division. So this is definitely not a team you can sleep on.
You could make a case that their quad one wins, and for those that aren't familiar with the NCAA's new ranking of quad one and net rankings, quad one just means that it's a win over a team that is in the top 30 of in the net rankings, and the net rankings are an overall ranking that system that NCAA uses. So you could argue that Iowa State has some of the best quad one wins because of the Big 12, but also out of conference too, of who they played out of the conference. Ole Miss, who made it to the tournament. I'm trying to think who they played in their preseason not preseason tournaments, but the early tournaments. I can't name any off the top of my head, but regardless of that, here, I'll get it in a second here. But give the research department one. Give the research department 1 second here. They've defeated. They lost to Iowa, but it was close. They beat North Dakota State. North Dakota State's in the tournament. They beat Kansas. Kansas is in the tournament. Now that's Big 12 play, but they're out of state. They beat Mizzou. Not necessarily a great win. They lost to Arizona. Arizona kind of tanked this year. Illinois, that's a good win out of conference. So you see they have these good out of conference wins that does benefit them. And because of playing in the Big 12, I'm with you. I think they should be able to beat Ohio State. Now, granted, Ohio State has had some trouble in the Big 10. And I might go against what I just said later on in our podcast. But I think Houston, they get Ohio State, they make it to the Sweet 16. They get Iowa State makes it to the Sweet 16.
I agree. And I just want to make a quick fact real quick.
Go for it.
Did you know Michigan State is 10-1 against top 25 teams?
This year?
Yes.
Wow.
That is unbelievable.
Are you saying that they could be the contender to knock off Duke?
Well, I had them actually. Yes, I had them in the Final Four, but okay. I didn't. That was even before looking at that stat. They are 10-1 against top 25 teams.
Golly. Okay.
Only think the only top 25 team they lost to was Kansas at the time.
But that was like game 1 or game 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, let's hold that thought for just a second, and let's get to the final team in Texas that is playing. Prairie View A&M. I don't want to offend anybody. They are playing in the first 4. Last time I checked, they were winning. They were beating Fairleigh Dickinson. We won't look at their bracket, their hopes yet. They will play Gonzaga if they win. But let's look at Baylor, who is already waiting for their matchup against Syracuse. What are their chances? Do you think they get past Syracuse?
Yes, I had them losing in the second round to obviously Gonzaga, but I do think that they will beat Syracuse.
Okay. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I actually have them losing in the first round. I think Syracuse is a very good team. Tyus Battle, Dolage, and Bohem's son, Buddy Boehm. They've just have a really good, talented team, and I think this is every time Syracuse is in the March Madness, they always find a way to do something really productive with their seed, no matter what seed they are. I think they might lose to Gonzaga.
Yeah, and I agree. I might agree with that too. I see Syracuse losing, especially after they Baylor lost. What's that dude? Like Tristan Clark. I think his name was, because he had a knee injury, but he was averaging like 15 points per game.
Right.
But I think that's going to be a close game. We should definitely check that out.
So that will be a good one to watch. I always like watching the 8-9 matchups strictly because they're the most evenly matched games.
Mm.
Hence the reason why it's 8 versus 9, not
those are the games where it could ruin your bracket pretty early.
Right. Because but you're right in all seriousness, because it's truly ESPN says you have a better chance of doing a coin flip than just picking.
Right.
Because they've split 8 and 9 seeds have split the last 25 years between each other. They've been exactly even. So there's a factoid there for you. As we head into quarter number 2, and we're talking about our bracket locks, sleepers, and upsets. Here to help, we're here to help your bracket. Now we cannot guarantee that our locks will make it to the to where we say they will make it to. Okay, right. Do not hold us liable when your bracket is busted. We're just trying to do the best we can, and we're using the insights that we have. I want to throw that out there at the very beginning because you never know. So we each chose a lock for the Sweet 16, the Elite 8, and the Final 4. Desmond, let's start first with the Sweet 16. Who is your lock for the Sweet 16?
My lock for the Sweet 16 would have to be Mean Blue themselves, Kentucky, George.
Okay.
The first games are against Abilene Christian, which I'm very surprised they made it, and against Wofford. Believe I'm pronouncing that right.
Wofford, that's correct.
Wofford or Seton Hall, which are very not strong teams. So I think Kentucky has the best chance of making it to the Sweet 16.
Okay. I got Tennessee. Tennessee plays Colgate in their first round, and then they play either Cincinnati or Iowa. Personally, I'd like to see Iowa advance because I think that would help Tennessee get to the Sweet 16. If Cincinnati wins, that would be a home crowd for Cincinnati. They're playing those games in Columbus, but I still think Tennessee beats Cincinnati, goes to the Sweet 16. For the Elite 8, your lock for the Elite 8.
My lock for the Elite 8 is actually Gonzaga.
Okay.
Excuse me. They start off playing the number 16 seed, and then the worst possibility, the best teams from the conference that they could play would be Syracuse and then Florida State.
I agree with that. I think that's a good call. I've got Virginia. Virginia really has one of the easier paths in that tough South bracket. They play Gardner-Webb, 16th seed, they'll win. They play either Ole Miss or Oklahoma, they should beat either one of those. Then they play Wisconsin, either Wisconsin, Oregon, Kansas State, or UC Irvine. One of the double-digit seeds is going to make it to the Sweet 16 there. So Virginia's going to beat them, and Virginia will make it to the Elite 8. Okay. And then finally, I feel like we're probably going to be decided on the lock for the Final 4. You go first.
Well, George, you just said it themselves. Virginia, George.
Okay.
I agree. I think I like what you said. I believe that the path I believe they have to take would be the number 16 seed, Ole Miss, Kansas State, and then Tennessee. Tennessee's a great team, but then again, SEC hasn't been that strong lately, in the past, and I just think that they won't have the experience that Virginia has, surrounding the pressure going to the Final 4.
Gotcha. For me, I hate to be basic, but I got Duke. Duke has the easiest path to the Final 4. Minus Michigan State.
Minus Michigan State. I was going to say Duke. Then I saw Michigan State, and I was like...
But I still think they'll be able to beat Michigan State. Duke with Zion, R.J. Barrett, and Trey Jones is better than... better than any of Michigan State's guards. So we'll take Duke there.
Have you seen the numbers Zion has put up since his injury?
He's I think he's averaging 28 points per game in the 4 games he's played since coming back, or 3 games.
Yeah. The man's on a mission.
He's on a mission to be the number 1 draft pick. Speaking of draft picks, any sleeper teams or double-digit team, sleeper team, depending on how you interpret sleeper, to make the Sweet 16 in your mind? I'll go first, if you don't mind. Speaking of draft picks, I think Murray State could make it to the Sweet 16. And guess who they've got?
Who?
Murray State's got Ja Morant. the guy that's probably going to go number 2 after
Oh yeah,
Zion.
yep.
I think they're a 12 seed. They pulled a 12-5 upset over Marquette. They would probably face Florida State, and I have two options. Either Florida State makes it all the way to the Final Four, or Murray State upsets them in the round of 32 and gets to the Sweet 16. I don't think they get that far. I think they probably only get to the Sweet 16. My other two teams that I think could make the Sweet 16 would be another 12 seed, New Mexico State, who I think is playing fantastic basketball, and they play Auburn in Salt Lake City. No advantage for seeding wise for Auburn, for home court advantage, nada. New Mexico State's closer. New Mexico State wins that game. They'll beat Kansas. And in fact, in one of my brackets, I've got New Mexico State going to the Elite Eight, but I think I have them stopped in the Sweet 16 to UNC in my main bracket. My third team, and I'll just briefly say them, Yale. 2 words. Go Bulldogs. They beat LSU. They'll beat whoever beats Maryland, and then they'll make it to the Sweet 16. Desmond, what about you?
Wow, I'm impressed, George. You went. When I said sleeper teams, I wasn't going that deep. Well, all right. Let's talk about my first sleeper team. They've been in this bracket enough. They know what's going on. No matter what seed they are, you can't sleep on this team. I have Villanova as one of my.
I was gonna say Villanova was one I was gonna choose, but I don't know if I don't know if a 6 seed counts as a sleeper.
Yeah, that's why I said you went deeper than I did. But I have them going to the Sweet 16, losing to Tennessee. Okay. My second one was as you know, Iowa State, another 6 seed. Have them going to the Elite Eight for losing to UNC.
Man, so you're not buying into the 11-6 upset? You like all these 6 seeds to win?
I like all these 6 teams, George. But here's another one. Going to the Sweet 16, I have number 10, Seton Hall. All right, George?
Oh, see, actually, I do too. I will agree with you on that one. I have Seton Hall beating Wofford. I have them losing to Kentucky, but I don't know. I don't know if Kentucky... If they're going to be able to stop.
If you look at the schedule, George, they beat Villanova, good team. They beat Marquette.
Didn't they beat Kentucky?
They beat Kentucky.
Now, so granted, that was at Madison Square Garden in overtime.
But they still won. It's possible.
That's true. Do you think they make it past the Sweet 16 or only to the Sweet 16?
I have them lose Iowa State in the Elite Eight.
So you like Iowa State?
16, sorry.
So you have Iowa State going to the Elite Eight?
Yep.
And I'm assuming you have them losing to North Carolina.
Correct.
Okay. All right. I don't see that. I don't see anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
And in your mind, what's upset is the most likely to occur?
I said I didn't go very big. Besides the Seton Hall and Kentucky one I just mentioned. The other one would have to be Iowa over in Cincinnati.
Okay. I was going to figure you're going to say that because that is probably one that a lot of people are going to choose. That or Minnesota over Louisville is a big one. For me, I went deep. I just mentioned it. New Mexico State over Auburn or Yale over LSU.
You know, I think the reason why I'm not going as deep as I used to is because of the football season. You know, I used to go deep with the football season. Every single time I was wrong.
Now, so here's the deal I have is every year there's always that team.
Oh, yeah, there's always one.
There's always one. And for me, the way the committee set up the bracket this year, I think there's more than one. I think there's like 4 or 5 that have a very good chance. And Yale's one of those teams. Remember when they beat Baylor? I forgot the guy's name who a few years ago, and Yale out-rebounded Baylor in his press conference. Somebody asked the Baylor guy, you guys got out-rebounded by Yale. Do you want to talk about that?
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And he's like, yeah, they jumped up, got the ball with 2 hands. That's called a rebound. They got more of those than we did.
I remember that.
Yale's gonna get a win over LSU. LSU is too scattered, and we'll see. The biggest upset, though, I think the biggest upset that we could potentially see down the road For me, Gonzaga. Somebody else is going to make it out of that West region, and it's either going to be Michigan, Texas Tech,
or Marquette,
or Florida State.
Okay, at Marquette, but I could see that. I could see that. Hopefully it's Texas Tech. You know what I'm saying? But my biggest upset was actually Oregon over Kansas State.
Okay, and actually I can see that happening. Oregon making it to the Sweet 16. They are a team that, if you want to call a true sleeper, oh my gosh, they're a sleeper.
Oh yeah.
And I actually had them. If you don't believe me, I had them. You probably can't see the contrast.
I can't see that. I believe you, George. You're an honest guy. I believe you.
All right, I had somewhere along the lines there. I had Oregon as one of those sleeper teams. I just didn't mention them because I didn't feel like it. So
right.
All right, so Oregon over Kansas State. I think you've got one good one there. Just one good one. Yeah. So although it is March Madness, we're gonna take a break from the madness. Talk some college baseball. I know Desmond's not a huge college baseball guy, so I'll head this discussion briefly. A&M, if we're talking about A&M Texas Tech, A&M took 2 of 3, which was a series victory over Vanderbilt, the number 1 team in the nation, here in College Station on the weekend. They first series win against the Commodores since joining the SEC, which was a big deal. Got a walk-off win on Saturday, got a shutout on Sunday. A&M's playing some good baseball right now. They're playing Rice currently. I don't know what the score is, but they'll travel to Lexington, Kentucky to play Kentucky on the road, who did get swept by LSU. So hopefully that will be some momentum that Texas A&M can take out following this weekend.
All right.
They are ranked 17th in most of the polls, and that's a rise of five spots from last week. So that's a big deal. Texas Tech and the Red Raiders, they swept Wichita State at home, but then traveled down to Austin this past weekend and was only able to get 1 from Texas and the Longhorns. They scored 3 in each of the 3 games against the Longhorns, losing 3-4 in the first, winning 3-0 in the second game, which is a big deal, shutting out one of the most potent offenses in college baseball this year, and losing again 3-4 in the third and final rubber match game. Desmond, do you have any thoughts on the Texas Tech Red Raider baseball team?
Well, I just want to say that they're ranked 19th, so very close behind A&M. I like that competition between our 2 teams. Mm-hmm. And this might be only one of the sports where we might be able to compete with each other evenly.
Yes.
They play Michigan coming up here pretty soon. Might have to go to the game.
That's correct. But let's be honest, Desmond. Are people going to be focused on the Michigan series, or are they going to be focused on the basketball?
March Madness. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. March Madness. But I still got to show my support. I need to go out and see a game, actually. But I actually want to say that they're 9-1 at home, That home, you know what I'm saying? Sweet home.
A&M, I believe, is we've had 3 losses at home. 1 to Gonzaga, 1 to Vanderbilt, and 1 midweek loss. No, I'm sorry, 4 losses at home, which is uncommon. But 1 to Illinois Chicago at the beginning of the season, 1 to Incarnate Word in the midweek, and then 1 to Vanderbilt and 1 to Gonzaga. So obviously doing a little bit better than A&M is at home.
Oh yeah, that's all right though.
In other news in Division I college baseball, we had our first perfect game of the season. East Carolina beat Maryland on Sunday in the series sweep for the East Carolina Pirates, and they were able to get a perfect game. First perfect game in East Carolina's baseball history, which is a big deal. So that's pretty cool. And there's only 1 undefeated team left. That would be, and that title goes to the Sun Devils out in Tempe, the Arizona State Sun Devils. They're 19-0, 3-0 in the Pac-12. How long do you think this lasts?
I don't know, George. We'll have to see.
Personally, I think they're going to lose here very soon. It's hard. A&M had went 26-0 a few years back, and it was hard for them to keep that. They just kept grinding out wins.
I think it'll be a team where they don't expect to lose. They have a little confidence, and then they end up getting blown out or something. It's always like that. It's always like that.
So, of course, now we've taken our little break from college basketball, and it's back to college basketball for our game picks. We need to get some guests in here, Desmond. We really need to do that.
I can just guess.
We'll have that for next week, and we promise we will have an upset next week.
Oh yeah.
Okay, we will have an episode next week. We've been off the air for like a month and a half, but trust me, we'll be back to discuss the first weekend of the tournament. We'll look ahead to the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8, and we'll have somebody pick some of those games with us for sure. But let's make it very clear. I am still beating Desmond in upsets this year. In the year 2018-2019 broadcast season that we've done, I picked more upsets than Desmond has even attempted to win. He has 2, and I have 4 total, I believe, something like that. We each, if you remember last episode, Desmond and I picked the same 5 teams in the 5 games that we picked. So we each had the same record, which was 1-4. Yes, we only got 1 basketball game right. But I had the upset over Iowa State, and Desmond's upset pick was Syracuse over number 11 ranked Virginia Tech, and mine was the 24th ranked Iowa State Cyclones over the 20th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. So mine worked out, Desmond's did not. Let's go right into this. Our first 3 games are the 3 teams we talked about earlier, Texas Tech, Baylor, and Houston. And then we've got 5 games that are probably going to be very exciting and should be good ones to watch. So, Desmond.
Yes.
The first game on our tally here, number 3 seeded Texas Tech and the Red Raiders take on the 14th seeded Northern Kentucky Norse. That's right. Their mascot is something looking like a Viking. They play on Friday at 12:30 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, not too far from the Texas Tech campus.
Oh yeah.
They're looking to start this tourney off right. I've got Texas Tech getting the 20+ point win. I've got them by 24. Desmond, what do you got?
Well, George, how could I say no to Texas Tech? They're just such a dominant team. I have them winning by 17 points, and I expect them to do good in the tournament no matter what. I've had a good season watching them play.
Yeah, let's hope they do. Let's hope they represent some sort of Texas with some sort of pride, you know. Baylor and Syracuse, the 8-9 matchup, Baylor being the 9 seed. They will play on Thursday, on the first day of the tournament, around 9 o'clock Central Time in Salt Lake City. I think Tyus Battle and the Syracuse Orange are too just good. I think they're just better than the Baylor Bears. I've got Syracuse by 5.
I have Baylor winning this game, and I have them winning by 6.
Okay, so either a close game and either Baylor or Syracuse, apparently, according to us, the pundits here. Moving ahead, we've got Houston, another 3 seed, taking on the Panthers of Georgia State, a 14th seed. They play on Friday at 6:20 in Tulsa, as well in Tulsa. So big slate in Tulsa. We've got one more game that we're going to talk about in Tulsa. How many times can I say Tulsa? Tulsa. It's a fun city to say. I think I almost said the Tulsa Cougars. I think the Houston Cougars will be able to bounce back from their conference championship loss. I've got them beating Georgia State by 15. What do you have, Desmond?
I have Houston winning by 19.
Wow.
Yes, I know.
Don't worry, mine was 15, about the same. All right, so away from the Texas schools, now we've got non-partial. We're non-biased, maybe a little bit if we are picking Big 12 and SEC schools, but we're trying to be non-biased. One of these games is going to be the start or the second game of the tournament at 11:40 Central Time on Thursday in Jacksonville. Another 3 seed. Gosh, I like picking all these 3 seeds. 3 seeded LSU and the Tigers take on the 14-seeded Yale Bulldogs. I think this could be an upset that won't feel like an upset because of the whole situation around LSU and Will Wade. As I mentioned it multiple times, he has still been suspended indefinitely. He has expressed his reasoning to come back to the team. He would like to be reinstated. I have not seen anything on ESPN or any of the sites that have said that he will coach in Thursday's game. We still have plenty of time. There are 2 days for them to release a statement, but we will see. As of right now, Yale's going to be very methodical in their possessions. They can rebound well. I've got Yale by 7 in a 14-3 upset. Desmond?
I went the opposite direction, Jordan. I had LSU winning by 13.
So you don't think the Will Wade situation is going to bother them?
No, I don't. I'm sorry, George.
I'm sorry, but did you see the SEC tournament?
I did.
And then get destroyed?
Hey, Texas Tech didn't do well against West Virginia. I still have faith in them.
I guess that's true. Well, the third game that we mentioned that's in Tulsa, this one's the night game, the nightcap. Iowa State and Ohio State. Gosh, you want to make sure you don't get those mixed up. That's the 6-11 matchup. Honestly, I know we've been talking about this, and Desmond, you have them in your Elite Eight. The road ends for the Cyclones. Ohio State knocks off the Big 12 conference tournament champions in overtime by 4.
Come on, George. Don't do me like that. Iowa State by 4. Come on, George. Iowa State is a strong team. Just watch. Next week we'll be talking about Iowa State.
I don't think so, Desmond. I'm sorry. We'll if we do, I will let you play the Iowa State.
No, I don't want to play the Iowa State fight, so I can't do that. I'm still Red Raider.
I'll let you talk trash about Ohio State then, because there's somewhere in my heart that still feels for Ohio State as a university I may should have looked at, but moving ahead to our last 3 games that we are picking, in Columbia on South Carolina's home court, the VCU Rams take on the UCF Knights in a battle of 3-lettered universities. See what I did there? VCU, UCF. You don't get a laugh there. Okay, fine. And one of the most evenly matched games of the tournament, I've got the Knights finding plenty of ways to use Taco Hall and or Fall Taco, big 7'5" guy. They'll play Duke, UCF by 8. And it's not an upset per se, but technically because they are the 9 seed, it is an upset. Desmond, who do you have?
I agree, George. I think it's going to be a close game, possibly a buzzer beater. I have UCF winning by 1.
Good choice. And in a game we've already referred to, and we know who Desmond's going to pick, but I guess we're still going to have to discuss it. The late game in Jacksonville on CBS, on national television, Wofford, the 7-seeded Terriers, take on the Seton Hall Pirates, the 10-seed Terriers. For me, they come into the tournament streaking. They've won quite a few games in a row. They were ranked in the top 25. They had the highest. They're the highest seeded team ever from the Southern Conference, and they'll look to reach the Sweet 16. Wofford by 8. Desmond, we know you chose Seton Hall, but by how much?
I had Seton Hall by 9, George.
Why?
Because, George, I think Seton Hall is a sleeper team, as I said before. Where are my notes here real quick? And I have them being Kentucky, and I just really believe in them, George.
All right. If you believe in them, I guess that's the only way to say. That's the only thing you got to have your faith and your gut and your heart and your head to be the same, feel the same way when you're filling out a bracket. And in our final game pick of the episode, Marquette, the 5 seed, takes on number 12 Murray State and the Racers. Thursday game, middle of the afternoon in Hartford, Connecticut. You have Ja Morant versus Marcus Howard. What more can you ask for? 2 of the best individual players in the NCAA Division I right now. Marcus Howard has been averaging 35 points per game. Ja Morant has like 33 and 10 rebounds per game, averaging 10 rebounds per game. I've got Ja Morant and the Racers pulling off a 5-12 upset, which will be one of 3 this year, folks. 3. And if you didn't hear the one earlier with New Mexico State Auburn, that's New Mexico State, Murray State, and that's right, Oregon knocking off all 5 seeds. I think Mississippi State will make it through as the only 5 seed to the second round. So I've got an upset, Murray State by 6. Desmond, who do you have?
I'm not going to get that, George. I have Marquette winning by 5.
Why? What sets out Marquette versus over Murray State?
I don't know. We'll just have to see.
Okay. Again, if it's your gut decision, it's your gut decision. And you notice we have reached the buzzer, Desmond. You want to give us our little buzzer sound like we did last time? There you go, the buzzer. We don't have any overtime this weekend because none of our small schools made it to the big dance. Davidson got knocked out in the A10 tournament that was like literally just went haywire. I think VCU got knocked out in the first round, and St. Bonaventure got knocked out in the championship game, and St. Louis came from like being not in the tournament to being in as the automatic. So Davidson's not making it. I believe they're playing in the NIT though. So I mean that's a good consolation prize. And my small school, North Texas did not even come close. I don't think to the NIT, let alone the CBI or the CIT, whatever the other postseason tournaments is. Who cares? North Texas. Sorry, Mean Green fans. I know I've been rooting for you most of the year, but they couldn't do it in the Conference USA tournament, so I guess that was just fate for them. Don't worry, we are out of time, but we'll be back next week for breaking down the first weekend of the tournament. We'll look ahead to the Sweet 16 matchups and potential Elite 8 games. We will check back in college baseball and see how Texas Tech does against Michigan and how A&M did against Kentucky. And we'll look for other storylines, including probably some big storylines with some changing in the rankings, as there are a lot of ranked matchups this weekend. So if Michigan State can go 10-1 against top 25 opponents, then I think we can do another episode next week. So I think it's a good way to end our March Madness special. Regular episode number 16 comes to a close with a so long from College Station in Lubbock. Once again, for my colleague in Lubbock, he's Desmond McLaughlin, and I'm George Koff saying so long, good night, and happy brackets. Gig 'em Aggies and Wreck 'em Tech.